President Obama hopes to ease the strain between the United States and Afghanistan today when he meets with Afghan President Hamid Karzai at the White House. This follows a day of closed-door talks Secretary of State Hillary Clinton held with Karzai. Clinton says that while the relationship between the two countries is rocky, the U.S. will continue to provide support for Afghanistan long after the last U.S. soldier is gone. For a look ahead at today's summit, we're joined by CBS News Foreign Affairs analyst Pamela Falk. Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good to have you with us. What can we expect as we go into the talks today?
Well, this is supposed to be a closed-door meeting and then a lunch. And the idea here is the challenge for the Obama administration is to try to create a better atmosphere with the Afghan president, Hamid Karzai. And there's no love lost between the two in the past year. In other words, there have been a lot of accusations back and forth, particularly with the disputed elections. And so that's the biggest challenge, is just before a major military operation by the U.S. and NATO forces in Kandahar, there should be at least some kind of establishment of a better partnership, not just pushing it under the rug, which appears to be what you hear, at least from the Obama administration and from Secretary of State Clinton.
Can these talks effectively achieve something like that?
Yes, absolutely. They can start a better relationship because there are demands that Karzai has and there are demands that President Obama has, and they have to mesh. And there are a lot of problems. There's still a lot of challenges in Afghanistan.
The Afghan government doesn't seem to be running at top speed. Lots of challenges. And then also with the Afghan country, infrastructure, reconstruction issues. What steps need to be taken in the next 10 years or so to get this country to where everyone would like to see it?
Right. Well, there are a few challenges, and there are a few things that have to be done. Number one, the training of Afghan forces so that the United States can withdraw forces. That's been very slow and very difficult. The second is the reconstruction. That was General McChrystal's initial idea was 60% rebuilding, 40% military. The military has moved forward, the rebuilding hasn't. And that's something that really has to be more on the ground, where people feel that the United States, like other countries in the past, will not pull out. The second is the issue of drugs and thugs, if you want to call it that, and that is the drug trade. And that hasn't gone away. That's only increased. That has corrupted a lot of officials, and the final piece is corruption. So those are two major challenges, the drug and corruption issue. This is what the administration considered a judicially challenged administration in terms of elections and everything else. That has to be cleaned up. And finally, Pakistan. I mean, what's happened is the military operations in Marja and other places in Taliban-controlled territory has pushed all of the insurgents into Pakistan. And that's where the drones are being used just yesterday. And that's a big issue in terms of civilian casualties. So all of this links, and it's a very big problem for the Obama administration to try to figure out how to be able to leave.
Now, you mentioned training, and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said that we will not abandon the Afghan people. Our civilian commitment will remain long into the future. How is that going to affect our withdrawal timetable and then our commitment of forces, whether they're troops or civilian commitments there?
Right. The idea here is to withdraw a lot of the forces by the end of the year and all of the U.S. military forces by 2011, by July. That doesn't mesh with what you're saying. In a certain sense, you can't say we'll be in there forever, but we're leaving. That's the difficulty of both sending one message to the Afghan people, sending another message to the American public that this isn't a continuing war, even though it started, of course, 10 years ago. So it is something that has continued. The Karzai administration would like to negotiate with the Taliban. That's another issue that has to be done the right way. To say the lower level people, that was a mistake in Iraq, to let all of the military go. They become terrorists. If you keep them in, engage them, that may be right. But to bring in warlords, that's been done before. The MI6 in Britain, the Musharraf government in Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia have all tried to negotiate with the Taliban to no avail. That's really going to be difficult for the Karzai administration, and that's something that will lead to the ability to manage the government and manage Afghanistan in the future. So there is a way the United States can withdraw, but it has to do a lot more before it gets out than it's done so far. And that's really the difficulty. The Afghan people perceive that the United States, like the Russians, will leave.
Very, very interesting situation, and of course very tenuous. So we appreciate all the insight on it.
Absolutely, Michelle.
Pamela, thanks for being with us.